What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. This past weekend, I ran an event, Celio Stats number 3, alongside of PokeStats, and this was one of the largest Brilliant Stars events that have happened yet. We had 298 players, and I ran this tournament partially because it's been a while since I ran a tournament, and also I wanted to see what decks people brought out for Brilliant Stars, and I wanted to give people some good regionals practice as well on a weekend. So, yeah, we did Celio Stats 3, almost 300 people played. There were many tournaments going on that day, so I really appreciate people who chose to play in ours. And today we're going to look at the top 16 decks from the tournament. The people who placed first through 16, those were the people who got prizes, basically. So we're going to be looking at all the decks who were in prizing placements. But we'll also take a little look at the metagame as well. Before we do all of that, shout out to my sponsors, PotownStore.com, PokemonCard.io, Beast Coast Pokemon, and CardTrooperGames.com. You can find links and coupon codes down in the description below. And also remember to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and leave a like and a comment if you enjoy the video. So a quick look at the metagame here on PlayLimitlessTCG.com. Mew Genesect, far and away the most popular deck, 20% of the meta. So roughly 1 in 5 people were playing Mew Genesect. It had over a 50% win rate, nothing to scoff at. And then second most was Calyrex and Teleon. Third was Gengar. Fourth was Rapid Strike Malamar. And fifth was Eternatus VMAX. So I think the top 5 to top like 10 most popular decks here are pretty interesting. I think people would have expected a lot more Hoopa Moltres, although Darkbox and Teleon and Hoopa Moltres are kind of the same deck, right? And they got split up into two in the way that the Limitless algorithm sorts the decks. You'll see these are pretty much the same decks. So really you can just combine Darkbox and Teleon with Hoopa Moltres and say that there were 16 of those. But Eternatus being over 5% of the field and being the 5th most popular deck, that one really surprised me. Calyrex, Ice Rider Cali, and Gengar being number 2 and 3 were also pretty surprising. With Arceus Duraludon being a little lower, around the 4% mark. Like I mentioned, Darkbox and Hoopa combined were about 5%, because they're basically the same deck. Jolteon's still seeing a really low amount of play, although I think it's still a good deck. We have some rogue decks down here, like Arceus Flygon, or less popular decks. I suppose they're not rogue now at this point that people know about them, but yeah, just a look at the top decks. And out of the decks that had 10 or more people playing them, it looks like Eternatus, or let's look at Hoopamult and Darkbox and Teleon. No, so yeah, Eternatus had the best win rate out of the popular decks, with Arceus Moltres also looking pretty good at a 59.02 with 9 people playing it. So just some things to keep in mind there. But now let's go ahead and look at the standings, and we'll look at the top 16 decks. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out here to number 17. On Guard was playing an Arceus V-Star kind of box deck. So, you know, number 17, the same record as 16th. They bubbled out. We'll just take a quick look at this list from On Guard here. I know they've been working with Arceus variants a bit, and I think this list looks really cool, so I definitely wanted to give it a little shout out there. Also, we had Justin Stites, also with the, quote, bubbling record of 7-2, which wasn't guaranteed to make it in to cut. Justin Stites was playing Mew VMAX, nothing too crazy, but Justin was the winner of the first ever Celio Stats back in the Chilling Rain format, I want to say. Or possibly Evolving Skies, but he was Celio Stats number 1 winner. So now let's look at the top 16. At number 16, we have Rain, a player that I've seen their name around a lot on Play Limitless. I don't know if that's their real first name, if that's just a username, but I have seen them place quite a bit in online events. They played straight Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX, and honestly, I think this might just be better than Ice Rider Arceus, because you can fit more stuff in that I think is needed. At least if you play with Ice Rider Arceus, it feels like the Inteleon line doesn't also fit comfortably, because I do want to have Leon in my list, which Rain is playing here. I want to have Path to the Peak. I want to have multiple choice belt. So I like this list. Suicune kind of feels like a fail-safe option, which some people might want to have, especially in a best of one tournament, which this was. Next up, at number 15, we have Patrick Wall. Huge congrats to Patrick. He has been a coaching student of mine since sometime in the pandemic. This whole past pandemic time has been a blur, but big shout out to Patrick for getting top 16 with Arceus Duraludon. You'll see here that Patrick decided to omit the single strike mustard and add a third basic Duraludon V, since the mustard is not in there. I know he mentioned that the list is a work in progress. He was starting to fall off of liking Duraludon VMAX as a regionals deck option. So he wanted to try a couple different things with the list for this tournament, and then he ended up doing really well with it. I do think Single Strike Mustard should be in the list still, but Patrick did a great job of making it into top 16 with a couple of changes to Riley's list there. At number 14, we have Ira with Mew VMAX. So let's take a look at our first Mew VMAX list here of the video. We've got the typical 3 bosses orders, 3 LS's Sparkle. We've got the Oricorio, but very oddly enough, 2 Mew VMAX. 2 Mew VMAX, and we've got a little bit of extra energy going on here. I guess since you've got Ultra Ball now, you can just go and grab those Mew VMAXs whenever you want, but I would not be comfortable myself. Excuse me, I would not be comfortable myself just playing 2 Mew VMAX. Other than that, list looks fine. Personally, I would just cut the double turbo and add in a third Mew VMAX. Okay, next we've got Superior Spider with Single Strike Urshifu VMAX, Umbreon VMAX. This is still a great deck, and I love that it's still a great deck because it's cheap to build. The Umbreon VMAX are the only really pricey part of the deck, and even they're not bad. They're probably like 20 bucks right now. Let's see if I'm wrong. 15 bucks right now for the lowest rarity Umbreon VMAX. That's great because you can get the 2/2 single strike Urshifu and the Houndoom line. You can get all that in a league battle deck, like a pre-constructed deck, and everything else. This deck is just really, really cheap, so that's great. But the deck is good because you have essentially 4 different attackers within your VMAX line, because Umbreon V, Umbreon VMAX, Urshifu V, and Urshifu VMAX are all good attackers in their own right and in their own circumstances. And then you also have Umbreon VMAX's ability that is a free boss's orders effect, which is phenomenal. And Urshifu VMAX, Gmax 1 blow goes through effects, so you can hit things like Zamazenta V and Duraludon VMAX and Decidueye that say you normally wouldn't be able to hit them. Next, we have Saku Ritos, who played Hoopa Moltres. So let's take a look at this list here. And if you guys want to see these for yourself, they're on play.limitlesstcg.com. So here is a top 16 Hoopa Molt list with Galarian Weezing in it. I believe the other ones in top 16 don't have Galarian Weezing, but we'll hit them in just a moment. So I know there's a lot of debate on Twitter about, is Galarian Weezing a necessity for this archetype, or is it just nice to have? Is it like a cushion so you can sometimes just win off of the Galarian Weezing? Let me know in the comments down below if you've been playing this deck. If you've tried both versions, do you think Galarian Weezing is just like a safety net, or do you think it's actually good for the deck? Do you think it's optimal? Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. But this is a deck that I have a lot of fun with. There's a lot of different lines you can go, especially with the Weezing in the deck. You got single prizes happening. You got that Zigzagoon, multiple scoop up nets, the Sable IVs, your big finisher. Hits for a ton of damage. Got Dramando with Mew VMAX here. And, oh, okay. Well, Well, I didn't even notice this. What's up with the Mew VMAX lines today, guys? What's up with this? We've got a 3-2 Mew VMAX. Is this just the way it's going now? Am I behind on something? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I behind with the times? I produce a tournament for one weekend and I miss out on all the new lists. Is this how we're building Mew VMAX now? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm missing something. I like the catchers. The catchers are good because if you flip tails, so what? You get to draw more cards with Genesect. If you flip heads, you get a free boss. So it's pretty much win-win, kind of like Cramomatic is. I like the Switching Cup Rotom Phone split as well. We've got the one choice belt. We've got 4 training courts. I mean, they fit everything into this deck that I want into the deck. It's just they cut a 1/1 Mew VMAX from the deck to do it. So not too sure I love that part of it, but the rest of the deck looks great. And we haven't been looking at lists, but I suppose we can just take a look here. In Swiss, they went 7-1-1, just losing to an Arceus Molt, and then they ended up losing the mirror in Top Cut. Next, we have Lee Bowie with Mew VMAX, and let's see. Is he playing flippy cards? He is playing Pokemon Catcher and Echoing Horn. I think this is a dirty combo. Pokemon Catcher, again, it's good in this deck, specifically because you don't mind if you flip tails. That means you just draw extra cards and try again or get a boss's orders. And Echoing Horn is good against Duraludon, because you can Echoing Horn the opponent's Duraludon Vs and Arceus Vs from discard to the bench to get an easier knockout than Duraludon VMAX. So let's take a look and see how he did against Duraludon. Well, he played 2 of them, the same person twice, and won once and lost once. So, can we actually see here how many games it took in the best of 3? So Lee lost 0-2 in the Duraludon matchup there. So maybe those Echoing Horns plus Pokemon Catchers were not doing the trick in the Duraludon matchup, at least this weekend for Lee. Next, we have Marco with another Hoopa Molt. This one does not play Galarian Weezing, but it does play one basic Fighting Energy and a Galarian Zapdos V, which I personally really like. It's good against Arceus, and it's even better in real life play when your opponent doesn't know that it's in the deck list. But other than that, I think we've seen this list a lot of times. Here we see Marco's playing the cast form Snowy form as opposed to the cast form Rainy form, but as neither of the lists we've looked at were playing Water Energy, it doesn't matter which you're playing because they're both level ball searchable and they both have free retreat, and they're just there to be a level ballable Pokemon that has free retreat. Next, going into the top 8, we have Evan P with Arceus Duraludon. And this looks very similar to Riley's list, except Riley did play 4 stadiums. So what is the difference here? Can we hunt down the difference? Yes, it's a third Arceus V-Star. Riley played 4-2 Arceus, and Evan here played a 4-3 line. But very, very similar to Riley Holbert's list from the Full Grip Games tournament, and also similar to Patrick's, who we've already looked at here in the video. And next we have some more Mew VMAX. Ryan Tan piloted Mew VMAX to a top 8 finish. Here we have that Echoing Horn again showing up twice. We also have Tower of Darkness. Now, is Ryan from Japan? Because the Tower of Darkness has been a Japan thing. Ryan is from Singapore. Okay. But it is something that I've seen from like Japanese tournament results, that players will play the 4 Tower of Darkness as their stadium Mew, because you can also discard extras with the Tower of Darkness effect. So it's not just there to bump Path to the Peak, it's also there for that effect. Personally, it's not my favorite choice of stadium for the deck. However, Ryan is the second player in top 16 with the Mew VMAX lists that's playing an Echoing Horn, not playing the Pokemon Catchers in this list, though. Number 6 is actually my mother, Jodie794, Joan Morsa. She got 6th place with Jolteon VMAX. This is the same Jolteon VMAX list that I played last week in Zach Lesage's Monday Night Late Night event. So if I haven't talked about it already, yeah, I have talked about it already on the channel and on streams. But the 4 Marnie 4 Path is really great against Mew VMAX. The paths help you out against. I mean, Marnie Path is good against a lot of stuff. It's also good against Duraludon. It's good against Arceus decks. And then you kind of just disrupt your opponent slightly with the Marnies and the paths. And sometimes you toss that one a fan of waves in there while you're just pinging down Pokemon and swinging 100 turn after turn, and eventually you just rack up a bunch of damage on the board and take a bunch of prizes all at once. Jolteon is still a good deck because there's not Manaphy in any, we haven't seen a single deck up here today with Manaphy in it. And that just goes to show you that Jolteon is not dead because nobody's even playing Manaphy. And we could just look at the Jolteon matchups real quick, since Jolteon is a deck that is not really seeing a lot of play right now. So you might be interested in the matchups. Uh, so in Swiss, my mom went 2-1-1 against Mew VMAX. 2-0 versus Arceus Galarian Bird variants. And they were both playing 2 Galarian Zapdos Vs, I believe. We can check that out real quick here. There's 2 Galarian Zapdos Vs. And then here is 2 Galarian Zapdos V. So they were both playing double Galarian Zapdos V. Um, just a little note there. Lost to the one Mew in Swiss. So 7-1-1 into top cut. And then losing to a Mew VMAX in top 8. I do know for a fact this match wasn't much of a match. She didn't get a turn 1 Jolteon down either of the games. She got like turn 2 Jolteon V down both games. So it was just kind of bad luck there at the end for Jolteon. In fifth, we have Jace Patrick. Actually, somebody who I grew up playing the game with in the seniors division. Jace played an Arceus Birds toolbox deck with the Eviltal. We've got the Hoopa V, the Baby Moltres, which Baby Moltres plus Clara is a combo I love to see tossed into Arceus V-Star decks. Also, the Zamazenta that does 120 plus, is it 40 or 60 more? 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. So this can easily knock out an Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. This is a really cool list. Love to see it. We can also look at Jace's matchups as well here. So going 7-1-1 in Swiss rounds. Really good records, by the way. All these people that went like 7-2 and 7-1-1. Those are hard records in a best of 1 tournament. So going 3-1 versus Mew VMAX, eventually 4-1 versus Mew VMAX after top cut, losing to 1 Mew VMAX, tying to intentionally drawing to get into top cut against the Hoopa also beating a Hoopa beating an Eternatus, beating a Gengar, and beating a Charizard V-Star VMAX Arceus deck as well. Next we have Kairon up at our first top 4 spot, are also with an Arceus toolbox deck. I believe Kairon said that the Shaman sucks. I think the 1-1 Shaman V-Star is too much space, but maybe just the 1 Shaman V could be okay. But if you're playing Fighting in Grass, it almost feels like at what point do you just change and play a, like at what point do you switch and play a Flygon variant, you know? But Kairon was using Pokemon catchers, which we saw on stream. Probably the first successful Arceus list I've seen that played Pokemon catchers in any capacity. Kind of a funny inclusion here that ended up doing pretty darn well for him. We'll also see the Clara plus Baby Moltres idea. So really awesome actually here to see that Jace and Kairon both had the same idea with the Clara plus Baby Moltres and Hoopa V. So a lot of similar ideas there from top players. And then top 3, third, second, and first, we have good old Mew VMAX, and Mew VMAX. So we'll just take quick looks at these lists and point out the differences. We've got 4 stadiums, 7 energy, 4 switching cards, the 3-3 supporter lineup, the typical Pokemon lineup of 4-3 Mew, 4 Jenny, 2 Mellow, and 1 Oricorio. The 2 choice belt here and 4 power tablets. Some people just play 1 choice belt. It just depends what else you want to try to fit into your list. No Rotom phone, no switching cups. Then we'll go to the second place list. Also with the typical Pokemon lineup, 4-3, 4-2, and 1. 3-3 supporters. They play a PAL pad in this list, actually, to get back those resources of Boss's Orders and Alessa's Sparkle. Only playing 3 stadiums in here, and the rest of the list is almost identical to the previous one we looked at. And finally, Blask, the winner of the event, going 12-0-1, losing 0 times, beating the mirror match 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times out of 6, and intentionally drawing once to it. Beat Ice Rider Calyrex twice, beat Gengar once, beat Arceus Duraludon once, beat Katron's Arceus Box twice, and beat Rapid Strike Malamar once. So everybody wants to see the undefeated Mew deck. It is playing only 3 Stadium as opposed to the 4. It is playing 1 Peony. It's playing the double choice belt. It's playing 7 energy. It has the 4-3-4-2 Pokemon lineup and 0 Oricorio. So maybe Oricorio wasn't necessary. And the one of Pokegear is kind of the spicy card here, but it's really just an extra consistency card to help the deck run smoothly. And also you could kind of look at the Peony as almost like a 4th stadium, because as long as you have a stadium left in your deck, you can Peony to go get that stadium when you need it in order to be able to bump Path to the Peak out of there. So those are the top 16 decks and players from the Stats 3 Brilliant Stars event. And so in top 16, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Mew VMAXs. 1, 2 Arceus Toolbox style decks, 1 Jolteon VMAX, 2 Arceus Duraludon, 2 Hoopa Moltres decks, and 1 Single Strike Urshifu VMAX and Umbreon VMAX deck. And then just looking at some of the decks that made top cut, there were only 7 Jolteon played, and one of them made top cut. There were a lot of Mew VMAX Genesect played, and 7 of them made top cut, I think we said, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it almost makes sense at that point, like, 7 Jolteon got played and 1 made it. 60 Mew Genesects were played and 7 made it. Ice Rider Cali, 20 were played and 2 made it, and so on and so forth. And like I said, you can look at these numbers for yourself on play.limitlesstcg.com. You can see all of this information if you'd like to go check it out on there. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video today. And if you watched over the weekend or if you missed it, the VOD from the tournament is up on the channel right now. So be sure to subscribe to this channel for daily Pokemon TCG content. Leave a like and a comment if you did enjoy the video. Check out my sponsors in the description down below. And I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.